On a scale of 1 to 10, how afraid are you of contracting the Ebola virus?
7.
Right now, since I've lived in the States, Massachusetts, 0.
I want to say 5.
And what do you believe your percentage is of contracting that virus?
What is it?
Your percentage, like 0 to 100%.
Oh, God. I want to say like 50.
In Massachusetts, very slim.
Give me from 0 to 100.
Maybe like 5%,
5%.
maybe.
On a scale from 1 through 10, how fearful are you of contracting the Ebola virus?
6. From 0 to 10. I would say 2.
And what do you believe your percentage is from 0 to 100% of contracting that virus?
Same thing, 20%.
Probably like right now, probably like a 7 maybe.
And what do you think your percentage is of contracting that virus?
If it spreads some more, probably really high, but right now, pretty low.
I would personally say it's about a 4.
And what do you believe your percentage is of contracting that virus?
Percentage is probably around 15 to 20% maximum.
When you hear the term quarantine, what pops into your mind?
Just a separation. Somebody who's ill, separated from the general public.
How fearful are you of contracting the Ebola virus?
About a 4.
And what do you believe your percentage is of actually contracting that virus?
Probably like 0.05%.
And what do you believe your percentage is of contracting that virus from 0 to 100%?
20.
When you hear the term quarantine, what do you think?
Think of a person in an enclosed area to make sure whatever disease they have doesn't spread.
On a scale from 1 to 10, how fearful are you of contracting the Ebola virus?
2.
And what do you believe your percentage is of contracting that actual virus?
3.
And when you hear the term quarantine, what do you think?
Separated?
And when you hear the phrase mandatory vaccination, what do you think?
No clue. Did you say mandatory?
Yeah.
I don't know, I don't like the idea.
So if the government said you had to take this vaccination, would you take it?
I'd probably look into it more. But I don't know.
When you hear the term quarantine, what do you think?
Quarantine, I think it's kind of scary if you're the person that will be quarantined, but I think it's probably necessary.
I think forced order.
When you hear the phrase mandatory vaccination, what do you think?
Same.
And if the government ordered you to take your mandatory vaccination, would you do it?
Yeah.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how fearful are you of contracting the Ebola virus?
Probably an 8.
And what do you believe your percentage is of contracting that virus?
50%.
And you hear the term quarantine, what do you think?
Isolation.
When you hear the phrase mandatory vaccination, what do you think?
Compulsory vaccination.
And if the government ordered mandatory vaccinations, would you take it?
Yeah.
When you hear the term quarantine, what do you think?
Quarantine? I think of the army, honestly. I don't know why. But I do.
And when you hear the phrase mandatory vaccination, what do you think?
Mandatory, it means like you need a vaccination to cure Ebola.
And if government ordered a mandatory vaccination, would you take it?
No, I wouldn't.
Why not?
Because I wouldn't trust them. In a way, I wouldn't trust them.
So you don't trust the government is what you're telling me?
No,
Why would you not trust the government?
because I don't.
That's probably a terrifying thing to say. You're probably putting more fear into people by saying that, rather than letting them choose what they want to do.
So if the government wanted to vaccinate you, it was mandatory, what would you do?
I'd be more afraid of contracting it.
When you hear the term quarantine, what do you think?
Generally, you get the guys in suits and all that kind of stuff, hospitals. So, kind of scary stuff.
And when you hear the phrase mandatory vaccination, what do you think?
I think it's something that's, relatively safe to do, so everyone can be safe and not get it.
So if the government ordered mandatory vaccination, you would take it?
Personally, yes, just to make sure that I'm safe from it. Although personal views might conflict because that's the way human nature is, but I would get it myself.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how fearful are you of contracting the Ebola virus?
Like a 4.
I'd say 4 or 5. I'm not too scared because everyone's more fearful of something like this instead of the flu, which so many more people contracted last year.
And when you hear the term quarantine, what do you think?
Like no contact with the outside world.
And when you hear the phrase mandatory vaccination, what do you think?
You have to get vaccinated no matter what.
And if the government ordered mandatory vaccinations, would you take it?
Probably if it was going to help the rest of the country.
When you hear the term quarantine, what do you think?
I don't know. It sounds scary.
On a scale from 1 to 10, what is your fear level of contracting the Ebola virus?
8.
8.
Yeah.
Okay. On a percentage from 0 to 100%, what's your percentage of contracting that disease, do you think?
Well, if everyone has it, then 100%.
When you hear the phrase mandatory vaccination, what do you think?
Exactly what it means. You need to get vaccinated to protect yourself.
And would you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I would like it to make sure that I'm more safe and ensure that everybody else will be safe. I think it's generally, all in all, pretty good.
So you would take the vaccination if they told you had to?
Yes.
It scares me too that it's mandatory to get vaccinated.
So if the government said you need to take this vaccination, would you take it?
Yes, if the government's recommending it.
On a scale of 1 to 10, what is your fear level of contracting the Ebola virus?
1.
And the percentage from 0 to 100%, what is your percentage of contracting that disease?
5%.
I think probably a 5%.
Probably 10%, 15 maybe.
And when you hear the term quarantine, what do you think?
I think like people being separated so they don't contract the virus or spread it.
Quarantine is it is scary.
And when you hear the phrase mandatory vaccination, what do you think?
Vaccination,
Mandatory vaccination.
mandatory. That should be good. I don't worry about that.
So if they ordered you to take the vaccination, you would take it then?
Sure.
And when you hear the phrase mandatory vaccination, what do you think?
It scares me a little bit to think that maybe even with the vaccination, like putting the virus in you, you could probably still get it. So the vaccination scares me.
Would you take it?
Probably not.
Would you fight to the death and say no?
Absolutely.
Like that. What do you believe your percentage is of contracting that virus from 0 to 100%?
Pretty low, like 20%.
0 to 100%, what do you think your chances of catching the virus?
5%.
On a scale of 1 to 10, what is your fear of contracting the Ebola virus?
Like 3?
And what do you believe your percentage is of contracting that virus from 0 to 100%?
30.
When you hear the term quarantine, what do you think?
Like a horror movie where they have to keep patients separate, like as in the plague.
What do you think your percentage is of contracting that disease, 0 to 100%?
0 to 100, probably like 1%.
When you hear the phrase mandatory vaccination, what do you think?
A vaccine that everyone has to get.
And would you?
If it would help, yeah.
What is your fear from 0 to 10 of catching that virus?
Be kind of scared if I had it, but my fear of actually getting it is probably like 1.
And when you hear the term quarantine, what do you think?
Like seclusion,
And when you hear the phrase mandatory vaccination, what do you think?
shots.
Government issuing vaccinations based on the disease or outbreak that occurred.
They're gonna inject you with, I guess, the disease to help you be immune to it, and you have to have it. You don't have an option.
You think that's right?
No.
So you wouldn't take it? Would you fight to the death?
I wouldn't fight to the death, but I wouldn't want to take it if I had the choice.
And when you hear the term quarantine, what do you think?
Isolating a person in case of them having the disease.
That I would be stuck in a bubble and it would be awful and I would hate it.
When you hear the phrase mandatory vaccination, what do you think?
A vaccination that someone's forced to take.
Would you?
No.
Would you die fighting against it?
Depends.
On?
The situation, of course. I mean,
What do you believe your percentage is of contracting that virus?
Probably about 50%.
When you hear the word quarantine, what pops into your head?
Scary stuff, like being stuck alone somewhere.
On a scale 1 through 10, how scared are you of contracting the disease?
1.
1. And what do you think your percentage is of contracting that disease? 0 to 100.
Probably 0.
And when you hear the term quarantine, what do you think?
You just sit in a small area by yourself for like a good amount of time.
I think of the process of putting someone in isolation in order to prevent the transmission of diseases.
On a scale 1 through 10, how scared are you from the Ebola disease, contracting the Ebola disease?
Like a 3.
And when you hear the phrase mandatory vaccination, what pops into your head?
Mandatory vaccination. A vaccine that you have to get and you don't have a choice.
I think that it's a good thing. I think that people should be vaccinated.
I just don't trust them because they take our money. They could take other things from us too that we don't even know about. And they probably have a secret organization to try to I don't know, just ruin the president or something. Because they probably had something to do with 9/11 anyway. Yeah, sorry.
What happened with 9/11? Tell me. I want to hear about this.
What happened? Because I think I think the whole thing had to do with the government. I don't think it was a terrorist attack. I think everything had, in the JFK assassination, I also think they had something to do with it too. But that guy Oswald, right, his name was, I think they just framed him. I don't think it was Oswald, I think it was the government. Kind of brutal.